So hi and welcome. Thank you for taking the time today to speak to me.
Right.
My name's Caitlin. I'm a second year student on placement with Dundee Volunteer and Voluntary Action. DVVA is a large organisation that helps to get third sector organisations more resilient and sustainable. They do this in a number of different ways, one being the Help Dundee organisations with good governance at trustee levels. Could you introduce yourself and tell me a bit more about you, please?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I am a trustee as part of Dundee Community Transport. But alongside being a trustee, I also am a youth support worker in the third sector. And I work at two small charities called Alternatives Dundee and Wrasac, Dundee and Angus as well. So quite a lot of my life's involved in third sector and things like that.
So, could you tell me a bit about how you got into your role as a trustee?
Yeah, so I was actually approached by a colleague who was already on the board for Dundee Community Transport, and she asked me if I wanted to join. So when I kind of was asked, I didn't really know a lot about what a trustee role was. So it was really interesting to find out more about it. And I was quite curious to see actually, oh, what's it like being a trustee, like being involved in third sector. I was aware of them, but I didn't really know what the role was. So I was like, yeah, I'll go and find out some more and come along to one of the board meetings. And kind of that's me being part of the board ever since I went to that first one and just kind of was like, yeah, I really enjoy this. I think this is a good piece, good bit of volunteering to do. It matches up well with kind of what I'm interested with. And because a lot of my work's focused on young people, it was really interesting to be involved in an older people's service, and to be a trustee in that was really good and kind of learning new things and stuff. Yeah.
So, what is it like being a trustee then? What have you learned from your role about it?
Being a trustee, I think I've learned a lot about how an organisation actually works. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff and decisions being made by trustees to actually help with the staff do their day-to-day stuff. So I think I learned a lot about the guidance trustees can support within the organisation and stuff. But also being a trustee, you meet some really interesting people that you wouldn't through your role or social life and things like that. So I've really enjoyed meeting new people. There's folk from all walks of life getting involved in it, who are on the board for Dundee Community Transport. So it's really interesting to meet new people and find out about them and what they do as well.
So, you mentioned about how you went onto the board and then you've been there ever since doing different things. Can you say a bit about what the different things were in your journey?
So I started off initially as a board member, so that was kind of participating at board meetings and kind of putting input into questions maybe the manager had about day-to-day stuff, but also looking at services and how to get funding for it and what to do, and look at funding streams. However, in the last few months, I've taken on the role of secretary. So that's as well as doing that, I take the minute meetings. I take a minute of the meetings, is what I should say. So quite a lot of my roles like listening to what's going on and making sure that's recorded down accurately and then sent out to people so there's a record of what's being said. And also now writing down the agendas and sending that out to the other trustees and stuff in preparation for meetings too. So that's what I do in addition to the kind of board member role as well.
So, have you been able to learn a lot from, obviously your work is with young people and this is with older people. So, have you managed to make connections and similarities and differences between the two?
I think what I've actually learned a lot from being on the board is actually how many older people services there are in Dundee and how vital it is for these services to be around. Because I was aware of Dundee Community Transport, but I wasn't actually aware of the in-depth work that they do. And it's just amazing how many older people they support, as in they have many I can't remember exactly the number of the drives, but they have drives going on every day with the volunteers, taking these older peoples to their shopping, to hospital appointments. And I think it just shows how necessary these services are. And it's amazing that this charity can provide it. So I learned a lot about the work that they do, and kind of for me as a trustee, I'm quite passionate in making sure that's maintained and that in my role, I can do what I can to make sure the service still exists for as long as possible.
So how's the service managed to cope during the coronavirus crisis? Have you, as trustees, had to change the way you're working and the way your service works?
So during the first kind of big part of lockdown, the service wasn't able to run, which was disappointing, but I think it was like a necessary part, obviously because of the dangers of the coronavirus and the lockdown situation, and because older people are vulnerable. So it was making that really difficult decision to actually say we can't run the service just now. So over the time, it's been kind of supporting and looking at the guidance and going, right, can it look like now we can open up? And we're at a stage now where we're able to start doing some drives again. The team have been amazing at still keeping in touch with the regular customers who have drives quite regularly. And so it's been a lot of them maintaining contact and just us supporting the team during this time and reassuring them that they're doing the best they can and they're doing a really good job. As well as now getting to the stage now that we're able to restart the service and start doing drives again and stuff. So it's been an interesting journey the past 6 months, and especially looking at kind of what things the drivers would need to keep safe and things like that. So it's been massively different from what we'd usually look at. It's been very much health and safety majorly focused. So it's been interesting to kind of look at that, but it's brilliant that we're in a position again that it's running and a really positive journey actually at the end of it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds it.
Mm-hmm.
So with your work and your trustee role, how have you managed to find like the time to do both, like the commitments?
Yeah. So the best thing about being a trustee is that there's work in between meetings, but meetings happen like every few weeks as well. So it's not necessarily a weekly role that you're meeting weekly. However, you could be contacted in between the roles. So it's quite a flexible role to take on whilst you're working or even studying as well. So it's not like you need to go and give like a day a week to it. So I quite like that it's quite flexible. Usually the meetings are after work hours as well, so I'm not having to kind of balance when I'm in work and stuff. So it's a really good role to get involved in if you've got quite a busy life actually as being a trustee, because it can be really flexible amongst your other life activities, whatever they may be.
And I suppose like doing the like working it out, it's getting
Mm-hmm.
time management skills in there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think time management's a really big skill that you can develop from being a trustee is because some months you might be busier than others and reading up on guidance or for me typing up the minutes after and getting that sent out, some months might be busier or there might be some busier times, so definitely time managing it, so to make sure that things are happening in a timely manner. Time management is a massive skill that you can get from being a trustee.
So what other skills do you get from being a trustee?
I think another skill that you get is networking. So because you're meeting new people and you're on a board typically with people that you've never met before. So kind of working together as a team, you kind of develop these networking skills to figure out who's got the right skill to take on what role and things like that. And also as well amongst like at AGMs and things like that, you meet quite interesting people there. So you get to attend the AGMs as a trustee. So you can meet and network there, which I think builds up your confidence as well. Like I think I would say I'm more confident now after being a trustee, especially in terms of understanding how organisations work and how they run day to day. I'd say definitely you build confidence alongside kind of the networking skills. Yeah.
So if you were to say a young person or someone trying to get into a trustee role, thinking about it, what would you say to them?
I would say definitely give it a go. I'd say there's some really amazing organisations who are looking for trustees right now. And I think a young person has a really good perspective on um, how they can be in a trustee role, if that makes sense, because quite a lot of people who are trustees are maybe that a little bit older. So for a young person to come into that role, they've kind of got a different way of thinking potentially, that can match and complement really well with the existing board members there too. And I think you just kind of gain so much knowledge around how charities work. Like I'd say I was quite familiar with how charities worked going in, but if you were going in and not knowing how a charity worked, you would learn so much around the day-to-day activities and how they're actually able to survive as well, and especially for students who are maybe looking for jobs after university. Being in a trustee could actually help you find opportunities within charities as well, to kind of figure out who's maybe got roles and develop these skills and knowledge kind of whilst you're studying. I think is an amazing thing. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Please, I'm glad I could be helpful and do this for you today. It's been great.
Thank you.
No worries.